Hey guys, welcome back to another video on Marvel. This is going to be a full season review of Daredevil Born Again. Anyway, let's get to the point. The season was interesting to me because it made me... There were seeds of really good and really great moments in this. I like the bank heist episode, the conversation between Matt and Punisher, for example, when he first tracks him down. The White Tiger episode, although I wish that Hector Ayala hadn't died, and unfortunately the actor passed away. R.I.P. to him. It was great seeing Fisk and Matt butt heads again, but as I say, I think that on reflection, my major criticism that the season felt like a mid-season finale rather than a finale is true, and also they are essentially rebooting with a full new creative team, which means where we leave off in this season will carry on to next season, but may not necessarily line up, and some of the motives from this season and storylines will probably get thrown away. I'm amazed Heather Glenn didn't die, for example, because she usually just dies in the comics, but I guess they didn't want to get accused of fridging, which, as I understand it, is killing off a female love interest for the sake of male character development, and they consider that sexist. Now, however, interesting fact that the first psychologist to label that against DC was also a creative writer, and she was hired to write comics for DC with more interesting female characters for quite some time after she first labelled the criticism of fridging. I can't remember when it was. But yeah, so they actually did take her criticisms on board. It's quite interesting bits of trivia. I recommend you looking up her original articles on it, because it's very interesting to read. Anyway, back to the point at hand. They didn't want to get accused of fridging, so they didn't kill off Heather. And, I mean, fair play for not killing her off if you don't want to get accused of being sexist. But also, what was the point of her character? I get that, unfortunately, the new creative team with the old creative team had a lot to work with. There was previously filmed footage, and then they had to basically get a budget to put in plot lines for the later episodes, like putting in the Punisher stuff, redoing all the scenes with Vanessa and Fisk, because the original actress for Vanessa wasn't originally invited back. So that was all reshoots, apparently, which makes me think, if you were reshooting Fisk's original plotline, wouldn't it have made sense to just throw out the other stuff you had, pay the actors, and then completely reboot the thing? People say, oh, it would have been too much money, but they already spent a ton of money reshooting stuff, so a full reboot of Fisk's plotline with Vanessa involved. You didn't have to throw away all of it. You could still have Vanessa being the criminal mastermind if you wanted to show a woman progressing from... she said she was a never clean in the original series, but if you wanted to do it, there was an easy way you could have done it. Just have it that Fisk is not running for mayor. You could easily say that complications with the blip and the snap. Complications with the snap meant that Kingpin was snapped back and Daredevil was still there, so we're still protecting the city. Kingpin was snapped back into existence in a prison that was... so he bribed a police officer to cook the books and let him out because everyone thought he was dead. You could easily say that he managed to achieve the bribe and get free enough, because it's Fisk and he's bribed the FBI before. And then you could say, well, I can't run for mayor or something, because obviously they'll then know I'm illegally evading prison, so I've got to stay in my little underground bunker with the rabbit and the snowstorm painting, and Vanessa, you will make business moves and we'll work together, because the deal was that if Fisk ever did illegal activity, Daredevil would go after Vanessa, but Vanessa could still go on illegal activity and try to prove that she ordered the murder of Agent Ray Nadeem. But if she was powerful enough, backed up by Fisk working from the shadows, and had assassins and everyone at her hips, then you could easily say that she was already, building an illegal empire, but Daredevil was attacking the Yakuza, the Mafia, the Magia, everyone, but not suspecting Vanessa, because Vanessa was just an art dealer. So you could easily have it that Fisk used the snap to his advantage, hid that he was dead, and then the big thing is him basically picking a candidate for mayor and endorsing them behind the scenes with money that was untraceable. So then he's still making the laws with the vigilante stuff, and still sitting in the mayor's office or sitting with the mayor, rather, at undisclosed locations or dinner parties. And it is Fisk, and all the rich people in the room know, but the rich people in the room don't care because the criminal rich of New York, or they're being bribed by Fisk to keep quiet, sort of thing. So you could still say that he feels untouchable, but he's hiding his public life, and he's only coming out of the shadows when he needs to, but he's still, he's still arrogant enough to mix with the rich and be seen as a big man because of all the stuff his father put in his head. So eventually, with him occasionally coming out of the hole, Matt, still acting as Daredevil, finds Fisk and is like, wow, Fisk is back. Shit, I need to take him down again. Tries to do the Raina Deem thing, as in tries to prove that Vanessa ordered the murder of Agent Raina Deem and get them both arrested. That gets thrown out because Fisk bribes people and also goes back into hiding, so the public don't see him that often, only specialist meetings when he needs to scare the hell out of someone, which would give the presence of Kingpin back into Kingpin. And also avoid all the really boring scenes where Vanessa and Fisk go to therapy, and Vanessa and Fisk are just having marital problems. Because there was so much given to that I was just like, yeah, but Heather isn't an interesting character as a therapist or a girlfriend. She also says that Daredevil didn't save her. She saved herself. She would have been dead if Daredevil hadn't come through the window. And also, I get what they were trying to do, but it makes no logical sense that someone would say that Fisk is an innocent party, because all his dealings were publicly made. The moment they tied this to the Netflix show, they could have easily had it that Fisk was on the run and evading prison and still influencing things. I mean, that was obviously hinted at from Hawkeye anyway, but they could have just done a different thing. If they'd added one episode to Hawkeye covering Fisk's backstory, maybe even bring back Matt to show what Matt was doing during the blip, and that would have given some lip service to Daredevil before this. And then, obviously, that was because there was a reboot. They didn't do that, but they could have added an episode here and put that in. What I'm saying is they could have written this plot line more cleverly while still tying it to the original Daredevil series, which is what everyone wanted, as shown by the... And, the new creative team understands that. In the reshot scenes, they take the piss out of it being like, my life doesn't feel real, it all feels kind of sudden and fake. And it's like, oh, it's just because you're being Daredevil, but internally it's because the team was lumbered with these reshoots after the first creative team went, yeah, we could do better than the Netflix series, no one cares about that stuff, right? It's like, don't bring back Vincent D'Onofrio and Charlie Cox and say this is tied to everything and then try to deceive us. Thankfully, Kevin Feige stepped in and said fans will hate this, because Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio were constantly saying, this is going to be shit if you don't step in and stop this. So thank God we've got two lead actors that actually know what fans want. And the creative team, the new ones, as fans, got to give credit where credit's due. They created some good moments, some good episodes, like the Bank Heist episode, White Tiger episode with Hector Ayala. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed elements of those plot lines. I just found the supporting cast, Heather Glenn, Kirsten McDuffie, I can't even remember the bloody names, and Cherry as a private investigator. It's not that they're bad. The acting is fine. No shade on the actors. And it's not that they're bad in terms of the scripts. They're working with a heck of a lot of variables that the creative team in charge didn't want to work with. However, they're nothing. They're nothing burgers, as the American compatriots of the YouTube sphere would say. They're barely characters. They're there, but they don't have depth. They don't have a backstory, even. It's just sort of sudden exposition, and they're introduced. They don't have anything, even a modicum of a backstory. We're told constantly it works on the basic side, but they're not characters with the same level of depth as, say, another private investigator or an assistant investigator you could have brought in. Jessica Jones. You could have had her training Karen, and then Karen's brought in. You could still bring in Kirsten McDuffie if your plan was to kill off Foggy, but also I question why you killed off Foggy. I get it was because the thing was already shot, so the new creative team had to deal with them killing off Foggy. But also they shot the one-take hallway scene with a bunch of CGI smoke covering up parts of it, which I'm just like, the smoke wasn't there when you were filming. We've seen the behind-the-scenes stunts work when you were in the costumes and filming it. Just not have the smoke. Don't have a CGI grenade that looks like rubbish. Don't... the CGI at points, the flipping on the rooftops, okay, I can forgive CGI for that, because there are some comic accurate flips that Daredevil does that you cannot do with stunt work. But you could easily hire rooftop people from YouTube or actual stunt workers to just do the best that's humanly possible. And then occasionally do the CGI when he's using the billy club to flip across rooftops, or move across rooftops. But what I'm saying is there were justifiable problems with the show, and the supporting cast could have been dealt with easily. Just reboot the whole thing, keep the bare bones of the plot, keep Vincent D'Onofrio and as Kingpin, keep Vanessa as a gangster if that's what you want to do with her character to make her different in the last 7 years, but have Kingpin pulling the strings from behind the scenes. It's not impossible. It was doable. And I think I could have done a better job in retrospect, because I would have been able to give a better plot outline to account for all these variables. Granted, that may sound arrogant, but what do you guys think? Anyways, back to reviewing the actual episode. Now, despite my criticisms, as I say, there were great moments peppered in here. There were episodes that I felt standed alone well, and showed Matt as a lawyer quite well as well, as I've already talked about. But at the end episode, I'm glad we got what we got, because it's showing that people like Punisher, people want Karen and some original cast members back. If you're going to bring back cast members, my point of view would be kill off Cherry in Season 2, because I don't really care about him. No offence to the actor is doing a fine job with the material he's given. The material he's given is not very good. Kill off Cherry. Kristen, I would like to actually see being a good lawyer, as we've been told she is one. So have her helping Matt on the back end, which it seems they set up. If we're not going to have Kirsten, we're not going to have Foggy. So if we don't have Foggy, we may as well keep Kirsten, and then have Matt enlisting Luke Cage and Jessica Jones at a minimum. Danny Rand Iron Fist, if the actor will come back, because if we're going to keep acting consistently, then okay. You could have, apparently they're going to have Echo, is a rumour, because she's obviously tied to Fisk. Then again, under a better writing team, she could be good. But I didn't like Echo massively, if I'm honest. It was just quite slow. But under a better writing team, and this creative team does seem to understand Daredevil, she could be good. I wouldn't mind it. That's a lot of Matt's love interests in one room, anyway. Matt, stop being such a man whore. And then you could have Jessica and Matt actually bantering, which was probably the best part of the Defenders, frankly, seeing those two together. Have Luke come back and have Luke and Jessica be a couple. That's something that I think people have wanted to see for ages. You could even bring back Claire, bring back Rosario Dawson as night nurse, giving the street view if you want, and perhaps dating Matt because him and Karen aren't yet together, and then by the end of the season Karen gets with him. But anyway, that's what I would do for Season 2. Will they be able to do that? Will all the actors come back? Most of them have expressed interest, even Finn Jones as Danny Rand, so I think they could do it if they wanted to. And just bring us a Defenders team taking on Kingpin, a street-level villain. They won't put Spider-Man in it, although I'd like them to, because Sony will block that. But it's still decent. You know, you can still get some decent stuff out of what I've just described there. Bring back Brett Mahoney as the police chief, or part of the police force. Have him find out Matt's identity after you kill off Cherry or something. Because Brett Mahoney we actually care about as a character. Bring back Ellison from a newspaper point of view. There are ways to bring these characters in and make us care about them. Because if the 9 episodes that the writers wrote can't bring in the depth of the supporting cast, then bring back the supporting cast that naturally has depth and give them an extra 9 episodes. The ones that are alive anyway. Unfortunately, we won't have Foggy back, because I feel like they've drawn a line under it, and unfortunately he's not alive. You could easily bring him back through some comic book related logic, but I don't think they will now, it's been too long. But that's what I think they should do for Season 2, and I think that the writers really did understand these last couple of episodes, that yes, they wanted to give us what we wanted, they wanted to tie it close to the Netflix series. We're getting a Punisher special that's now confirmed, not just briefly talked about and hinted at by John Bernthal, but confirmed to be co-written by him, so that will be interesting. And yeah, I just like that John Bernthal's getting a say in his own character, because these people clearly care about the characters, and that is a good... Well, things I think they did wrong, even with the reshoots, and that's that they wasted Muse. I know that the new showrunners don't really want to think about Muse, they wanted to just think about Matt versus Kingpin. But if you set up the plotline of Muse, he was an Inhuman in the comics, or an Inhuman-based power set, and he could disrupt Daredevil's natural senses and abilities, therefore making him such a villain for Daredevil. This guy was just a crazy psychopathic killer that could do Taekwondo with no powers. And, I mean, if you're going to do Daredevil's powers, you should at least put him up against a villain that could sometimes disrupt them or beat them, hence Bullseye or Muse. And if you had both of them written well, and better adapted to that plot line, it could have worked really well. So I do think they dropped the ball on Muse. So if I was them, I would find a way of being like, that was a copycat, bring in proper Muse with powers, link it more to the MCU and superpowers, and have Daredevil take him on. Perhaps not this season, but in Season 3. And they have talked about plans for Season 3, 4 and 5, but only plans at this point, I think. Because they want this to be a mainstay, or at least the writers of it do, and some people behind the scenes at Marvel do. How will that work with Secret Wars, the reboot? I think it will be just that Daredevil survives the reboot, and I hope that we do get Seasons 3, 4 and 5. And if they were going to bring back the Netflix stuff closely, I would finish this plotline with the second half, because essentially it is the second half, with Season 2, rather, of Daredevil Born Again. And then be like, okay, we'll bring in the Netflix writers to join the showrunners for this, and they can tell us their plans for Seasons 4 and 5, and we can enact them, obviously without the foggy bits, unfortunately. But, yeah, if they're going to bring this all back as a way to make service to the fans, I'm not saying I don't want this new creative team in charge, because they do seem to understand the characters, but I think bring in the Netflix writers as well. And once you've done the big stuff with Kingpin, make it the final draft of him, because frankly, there's only so many times you can say, well, Kingpin gets out of prison before it becomes meaningless. You could say he manipulates things from prison, but just don't have him directly influencing Daredevil after the street level thing, or have it be a big comic level Disney Plus event, and eventually throughout other series, throughout this, like this Defender series kicks off, then bring back Jessica Jones, then bring back Luke Cage and Jessica Jones, give them their own show together, or Heroes for Hire, put that in, and then have Luke Cage star on the Jessica Jones show as well, and then have this like stop Fisk's plans directly, then an indirect thing, then a prison breakout, and then have that go throughout other series, and then the next series is Daredevil and the Defender's final takedown of him, or final takedown that they think, and then finally we get a movie with Spider-Man and Daredevil. Make it a Spider-Man film, and Sony would lap it up. Like, if you really want to bring Kingpin in, I think those are the ways to do it. Give him a couple seasons of interfering with things, directly and indirectly, and then give him a film with Spider-Man and Daredevil, have the Defenders cameo or be involved, and then have him just be put out of pasture or put back into prison, and not influencing things for a long time, because there's only so much times you can say that Kingpin has got out of prison before it becomes meaningless. But that's how I would change things moving forward, and I think we as fans have to accept that there was a creative mishap, be thankful that Kevin Feige did step in, and hope that Season 2, regardless of what they do, whether they make it a big thing or a small thing, or this is the end of Kingpin's arc, just in Daredevil itself, I hope that Season 2 is written better, because the creative team does seem to understand the characters. I really liked the dynamic of the love triangle between Karen, Frank, and Matt. It works for setting Karen and Matt up for an interesting point for Season 2, and I don't want there to be a love triangle. Like, there's a lot of people that ship them, and the writers know that, but Frank is not a family man after what happened to his family. He has a dynamic and feelings around Karen, because she understands him and doesn't think him a monster. And you could even say that does extend to feelings of love, hence the favour and the dynamic Karen and him have had before. But it doesn't mean that he would just drop everything and be a family man, especially with what happened to him originally, with his original trauma, going through severe PTSD and hearing his son's voice, as confirmed beforehand in this. And with Beth in Season 2 of Punisher, when she just dies when he tries to have a family, he would not want that for Karen. So he would avoid that like the plague for obvious reasons. But the shouting match between Frank and Matt was great. Seeing Frank break out in the end scene was great. They tried to mirror the moment with the car door with the Commissioner. I think the car door one hit harder, and if they just copied the car door moment with the Commissioner, I think it would have been a better thing, to be honest, than what they did. I know they're trying to show Kingpin's hysterical strength and it getting more comic book accurate strength, but it just didn't hit the same way. They made Cole North the one that shot Hector Ayala, White Tiger. If you know his recently introduced character from the Chip Zdarsky Daredevil run, I disagree with that. Now Cole North's still alive, I believe. A couple other cops got shot by Frank. But yeah, I find it weird that they used him for that, because I'd prefer it if he had a more comic book accurate arc. I'm not one for comic book accuracy, but I like the character of Cole North, and they've changed him slightly to be more on the side of darkness, and I don't necessarily like that. Before he was involved in a task force for Daredevil, that was making him a darker character, and he found out the darkness of the thing and then reluctantly worked with Daredevil to bring it down. You could say that this is just setting up a Christian level redemption arc, a religious level redemption arc, and Matt will actually help Cole become a better character in Season 2. Yes, but he also killed Hector Ayala, so that makes me less endeared towards him. But then again, it could make the arc stronger in Season 2. I'm on the fence about it the more I think about it. But I don't like initially that they made Cole North the one to do it. Not with his character from the comics. We could see White Tiger in the next season as well, being Hector Ayala's niece, whose name completely escapes me. But yeah, there was a lot of good stuff, and the last episode showed a lot of the weight of it. Bullseye, and the flashback to that, as I say, I think was stupid at points. But you see Bullseye in his new hideout, so we're going to be seeing him in Season 2, which is good, because I like him as a character. Although I think we pinned it on Ray Nadeem after his dying confession was stupid. But yeah, I enjoyed this season, even though I've had gripes with it. And overall, I think it does have some glowing holes in character, which, as I say, I've talked about my easy fixes for that. And what they appear to be doing for Season 2, which is Defenders and the morals of vigilantes versus the establishment that's corrupt. Which is a really interesting thing, and again goes back to Civil War-like aesthetics. Even though they said the Accords were repealed, so how on earth can Kingpin just institute state law, even with the Accords being repealed? Now, the world's basically said, vigilantes and heroes save the world from extinction levels events. Leave them alone unless they kill people. So, how can Kingpin influence that? We'll see in Season 2. It's interesting, and I'm interested to see the Punisher special and how that links into Season 2. Hopefully it means Punisher is on the Defenders team, and we get more of Frank and Daredevil's dynamic, but less of the love triangle thing, because people really do ship Frank and Karen, and I'm just like, no. Like, she has similar feelings towards him because of how she feels about Matt and because of how everything happened in Season 2. But I don't like it. It's not Punisher enough to me. But maybe I'm being stupid. What do you think? Are you excited for Season 2? I am. I think we as fans need to basically accept that there was mess-ups. And we can gripe about them, but at least be thankful that the creative team really does understand the character of Daredevil and give them faith for Season 2. It interested me enough that I would rewatch it for the good moments and the good episodes, standalone or not. And I want to see Season 2. I'm excited for it. What do you think? Comment below and let me know. This will be my final review for Daredevil Born Again. I hope you enjoyed it.